And we're excited to be hanging out with our guy, Clelin Ferrell. And Clelin, man, we were talking earlier, and I was talking with our esteemed PR staff just about everything that goes into, for you in particular, but the guys in general, just getting ready to play Week 17 physically, emotionally. Like, there's no one in the NFL right now whose body's at 100%, right?
Right. Very, very true. I think it really just goes back to, taking everything one week at a time. Like, when you get into the realm of what it now is, we got, 17 regular season games?
Yeah.
A lot of guys don't know who we playing 2 weeks in advance. We taking it 1 week at a time. So it's definitely been major just trying to focus in and lock in because we got a big task at hand for sure.
Huge task. And we'll talk about the Niners in just in a minute. But kind of from the outside looking in, the past month or so, it feels like this defense has really kind of turned a corner. You look at the numbers kind of indicate that as well. But what's been working for you guys as a collective, call it the past 4 or 5 weeks?
I think a lot of people, and it's different when you're in it, you know what I mean, as to being on the outside. But a lot of people didn't really understand. This is a new defense.
Yeah.
It's a whole new staff, all new players in it. So I think for me and for a lot of guys, it just takes time to really, learn things. And obviously in the league, like, you don't really have time to, to grow and develop, right? You know what I mean? Everybody wants to win right now, which I get. And it's very, very true. It's just a sense of, when you do go through those learning curves, those growing pains, like, you can start to see things coming to fruition, as you've seen, last few weeks with the defense.
Yeah, and I think especially along that defensive line, I mean, it feels like you guys as a collective, and you say, from the outside looking in, right? It's important to note that you guys are actually on the inside.
No, you on the inside.
Well,
too.
yeah, not as much as you are. Not as much as you are.
Right,
but
right.
It just feels like, especially the big fellas up front, man, like it feels like you guys have really kind of turned into like a cohesive, multifaceted group of what we all thought this was going to be, a couple months ago.
Right. I think it's definitely challenged a lot of our players to really discover how much and what they really can do with all their potential as a football player, whether that be, you may have just been a D lineman before, but, we might see you drop in the coverage some. We might see you play a little deep third. You might, who knows? Who knows what you maybe actually do on a week-to-week basis. I think that's kind of it adds a little bit of fun to it. It's obviously a type of stress that you have to be mentally tough for, but I think, as you said, in the last few weeks, we've seen, some good success from it. So I think we're just trying to carry that.
Now, that's got to be great, though, for a certain type of guy, though, who wants to be, tested not only physically but mentally too, right? Yeah. Because there's two very different ways to be like, hey, it's 100 degrees and we're going to have a 4-hour practice, whatever it is. But it's also to have your mind tested too. I imagine it's got to be nice for a really, a different group of guys.
It is. It gets the entire defense to buy in. And what I mean is that, a lot of guys, you could be, if you're a backup per se, right? The starters may be the ones getting all of the reps. So, but there may be different packages for you to where, even though you may not be playing your main position, you could come in, you might be playing linebacker one down, or you might go in and play D tackle, or you might be playing safety. You know what I mean? So I think PG does a good job, and that keeps everybody involved, and guys aren't pouting because it's more so we have a collective, and you never know when your jersey man could get called to go in and you got to make a big play on a third down or whenever. So I think that's been really, really good.
I would like to see a DT play safety. We going to drop you back there, Clee?
Hey, I got a couple plays at safety this year, a couple plays at corner. I'm not going to pull up the tape just because you don't want teams to go looking for it.
Of course.
But it's definitely something you don't want to be surprised for sure.
Keep them on their toes. I love it.
Always.
Speaking of a guy that's been a really big part of your group that unfortunately ends the season on IR this year, Chandler Jones. Really, when we talk about the defense kind of coming into its own the past month, it feels like Chandler was just a man on a mission these past 3-4 weeks. I mean, what kind of challenge is it for you guys as a collective to kind of lift up, and obviously we're not going to see him on the field, but kind of help kind of replicate that production that he had? I think it's
a major opportunity for everyone in our room. Regardless of the fact Chandler is obviously, in our eyes, he's Hall of Fame player.
100%.
He exemplifies everything a Raider is supposed to be. But I think it's a true testament, to show just how big of an impact he's had on our room, not just from his play, but from his influence on guys like myself, from the things he's taught me, from the different things he's taught other guys in the room. Because his thing is just, he's one of the most intuitive football players I've seen. He's just always walking around doing pass rushing on a trash can on the table. So I think we're going to get a chance to see some of the things rub off that he's, taught a lot of us, and hopefully we can bring it together and pull out a win.
It's interesting where you talk about what Chandler's meant to the defense as a whole, numbers aside, stats aside, but like we've heard that from you, we've heard that from Max, we've heard that from Malcolm, we've heard that from guys that are in the secondary. Like, What is it about Chandler and kind of just what he brings in terms of intangibles off the field that has made him such a beloved teammate? And he's only been here, 8-9 months?
Yeah, very, very true. I think, for me, just from one of the things that I see is, when you just look at someone like his demeanor and just the way that he's kind of wired, he has a little bit of that wild man in him, to the extent of, he's very, very mentally tough. His obviously, I don't want to say he gets it from his brother, but it's in their DNA to have this type of willpower, regardless of whether he may not be feeling well, he may not be getting as many pass rush opportunities because we're playing a run. It's just his will to win is something that I think has, from what I've seen, being on his team for a short amount of time, is just seeing something that has definitely carried him throughout his career. Not just the fact that we all know the intangibles, his athletic ability, his length, but just to see how much he wants to win and how much he chases the fact of getting better is something that I think is truly a fighter spirit. That's definitely in their family for sure.
And you talk about it, right? And seeing a guy like Chandler, a guy who's done everything in this league, who most likely is going to end, when all is said and done, is going to have a bust in Canton. So to see a guy like that who's still putting in the work, who's committed to his craft, and like you said, getting better, I think is an inspiration really for the entire collective. Definitely. But shifting ahead to Sunday, heck of a challenge. Yeah. San Francisco 49ers coming to town. A bit of a rivalry game feel, right? It kind of feels like, I know that we're not in the Bay anymore, but there is that, hey, Battle of the Bay type situation. Just from when you kind of take a look at them in a very general sense, I mean, this is a team that has had a ton of success on both sides of the football this year, but specifically on offense, they've had so many changes, so many moving parts. What has made them so good and so consistent in 2022?
Definitely, like you said, the offense is obviously, I think Coach Shanahan does a good job with obviously, his scheme and whatnot. It makes it really, really tough to lock in on guys because they do a lot of different things. But I think regardless, you got to go back to the guys. They just have a lot of weapons. I think they've, Mr. Lynch has done a great job, obviously, bringing in the type of players that they need to have a chance to contend, to be a top contender. I think, obviously the skill positions, obviously the good O-line, the running backs. I think they just have a good base of really good talent at every level. So I think that's kind of been the thing to where, it's not so much as you really see a weakness. It's more so just you got to go out there and play and you got to win. Yeah. You know what I mean?
And I mean, the good thing for you guys, that place is going to be jumping on Sunday. New Year's Day, Raider Nation, they're going to be fired up. That place is going to be electric. And it's got to be nice for you guys knowing, hey, probably not getting on a plane again for a few weeks at the very least. Back-to-back home games to wrap up the regular season at the end of a long marathon year, Clelin Ferrell. It's got to be nice to be like, hey, we're staying at home for a bit.
Man, it's amazing. And like you said, bringing up the aspect of I was a part, well, I am. I feel like it's only certain guys that really know what it's like to be, the last part of the last Oakland Raiders. And so just, understanding everything that comes with it. I don't want to even make it out into this big rivalry thing, but, it's just knowing what it's like being from the Bay, having that Oakland, having that San Francisco. We have, obviously both teams have a very large minority fan base, and it's just the type of spirit that our fans have. It's just you're gonna feel it in there on Sunday. So I can't wait.
And I think you brought up a great point too, where this game means a ton to the fans. And I think every game, I think that's the beauty of being part of this organization is every game means a ton for Raider Nation. Yeah. But I think this one means a little something special just because of everything you brought up, the geographical stuff, the fact that they are two organizations with such rich history. Like it is going to be an absolute blast.
Most definitely, I can't wait. It's going to be exciting.
Very exciting. Speaking of other things that are exciting, how many national championship rings do you have, Mr. Ferrell?
Two national champ. I should have three, but it's two. Let me stop.
Two. You got two. But we are now embarking now on the college football playoff, which kicks off this weekend. Yeah. So if memory serves, Trayvon's TCU Horned Frogs are going to have a chance to make a run, as are Thayer's Ohio State Buckeyes. Now, I know you have to play Mr. Diplomat and stay out of this, and I'm not going to ask you to make any proclamations or predictions. Right. But as a national champion yourself, I mean, what advice would you give to these young guys going out there to do their thing this weekend?
My advice would be just enjoy the moment, live in the moment, man, regardless of the fact. I think one of the biggest things that I saw definitely playing in that is the hardest part was just not getting soaked up into the moment. Anytime we played in the national championship, one of the things that we knew was like if we played somebody that hadn't been in the playoff before, we knew it was going to be super, super new experience for them. Mm-hmm. And kind of that aspect of knowing that we've been battle tested, like a team like Ohio State has. They've been to the playoff multiple times. I think it's just not getting caught up in the moment, having poise. You know what I mean? You got to have poise. And once you do that, I feel like, the players just got to go play. And I feel like the chips will fall where they may too, so.
Best memory, like when you think of the national championship game, either of them, like what's the number, like what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Oh, that's the first thing that comes to mind. I think for me, it was the second time we won one. That's when it really soaked in because I got to go out with that being my last game.
I was guess that's probably a little different for you because you knew that was the end, right?
It's definitely a little bit of because it was a lot of, I don't want to say I was teary-eyed, but there was a lot of emotion going into the game, mainly because I didn't want to go out on a loss, right? And you playing Alabama, we was playing against Tua, and so it was a major, major thing, and they were supposed to be the greatest Bama team ever, you know what I'm saying? So it was just like a major, major emotion ride, like, man, we're going to go out the right way, and I think, just blessed enough that we did that, so.
Yeah, and I think that we're hoping that the 2022 Raiders also go out on the right way, finish this thing strong. Finish this thing strong. That's a tough one. 2 games left, both at Allegiant Stadium. We kick it off this weekend against the Niners. Clee, Happy New Year, man. It's so good to see you. Continued success. I'm going to talk to you soon. All right, brother?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, brother. I appreciate you.